Welcome to our daily top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis. Today is March 4, 2019, Monday. My name is JZ de Guzman. Let's get this started. For today's top 5 gainers, we have FGEN Corporation, Philippine 7 Corporation, Zeus Holdings, San Miguel Food and Beverage, and finally, HLCM Philippines. Please take note that these stocks have been ranked not according to the percentage change, but on total turnover value. For the top 5 losers, we have Semirara Mining and Power Corporation, Etienne Holdings Class A, Surpass, MRC Allied Incorporated, and lastly, Chalzea Logistics Holdings. Just like with the top 5 gainers, these top 5 losers have been ranked according to the total turnover value in a descending order. So let's start it off with FGEN Corporation. Okay, so for FGEN closed today at 22 pesos per share with an intraday high of 21.30 and an intraday low of 20.60. A while back I plotted this chart is actually better looking when you view it on the weekly chart, because if it's a daily chart it looks so tight, you can barely see the size, the height of these candlesticks. So we can create more space by switching from the daily to the weekly chart. So this looks better, at least how I see it looks better for me. So let's take a look at this. So the immediate support of FGEN is positioned at 17.70, while the immediate resistance is at 25.80. On the weekly, we see that the weekly the 10-day simple moving average is already moving above the 200-day simple moving average. However, we want this blue line here, this 200-day SMA, to continue moving towards the southward direction so that it will position itself below the red line, which is the 50-day SMA, if and only if the green SMA will hover the red SMA and the red SMA will hover above the blue SMA on the weekly. That's the kind of alignment that we prefer. Okay, now if it breaks down below 17.70, the next support after that is quite deep at 12.50. Now if it breaks out above 12.80, the upside potential is quite attractive at 31.10 or 31.15 if you would like to round it up. Now on the weekly, I like the position of the MACD because it manages to maintain its position above the signal line. And again, on the weekly, FGEN has a low risk level with its 21% volatility score. On the weekly again, there's not much. There's not much. Well, of course, today is just Monday, the first day of the trading week, so it's still too early for me to do a week-on-week comparison when it comes to the net foreign trade or net foreign transaction for this particular stock. But if you're going to measure the net foreign trade for 2019 year to date, it's easy to say that FGEN is on a net foreign buying mode year to date. Okay, because there are more positive net foreign trades than the negative ones. But let's take a look at the daily chart. Let's see if I will be able to derive or get the same sentiment as the weekly. Now, if on the weekly we prefer the blue line to move further to the south, so that it will position itself below the red line. On the daily, I can already see the perfect alignment that I prefer, especially those who already have a position in a particular stock and they would like to see the stock moving continuously in an upward trend. So green's above the red and the red's above the blue moving average. So 10 SMA above 50 SMA and 50 SMA above the 200-day SMA on the daily. So it looks better as far as the alignment of moving averages is concerned on the daily. It looks better there. Now, for the MACD, I also see that the MACD is still above the signal line on the daily, and although on the weekly the volatility score is only at 21%, on the daily it's already at 31%. Still, 21 and 31%, those are both categorized in my low risk criteria or criterion or indicator. In other words, whether you look at FGEN on a daily or weekly historical volatility histogram, you will still get a low risk level for this particular stock. Okay, so on the daily, yep, even on the daily, it's of course, if we saw in the weekly that FGEN is on a net foreign buying for 2019 year to date, of course we will also see the same on the daily. But just for you to see what happened last week, FGEN got 5 days of net foreign buying last week. Okay, that should sound pretty good for those who hold the position or who have a position in FGEN. Now let's take a look at the price volume or the volume review for FGEN. Okay, so this is my demo account for demo First Metro Pro account, First Metro Sec Pro account. So now take note that FGEN closed today at 22 pesos. Let's take a look. Did 22 pesos take the most number of trades and the biggest volume in the highest number of trades? Well, let's find out. So which particular price point here do you see got the biggest trade and the highest number of the highest number of trades and the biggest volume? Well, obviously it's 22 pesos. It got nearly 43% of today's volume, and it also got the biggest number of trades at 363 trades for today. So if you're planning to trade, whether you would like to enter a new position or top up on your position on FGEN. By the way, later on I'm going to mention to you my overall sentiment and my recommended action plan for you, regardless if you are yet to enter a new position or if you just want to top up your current position on this stock. But going back, if you would like to play on FGEN tomorrow, I would suggest that you monitor 21.8 to 22 pesos per share. 21.8 to 22 pesos. Why? Because that particular range got the biggest volume, and well, of course, that's where the price point that got the highest number of trade is positioned as well. Okay, again, 21.8 to 22 pesos per share, at least within the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading if you are into short-term trading on FGEN. If you are into long-term investing, you avoid the 15 to 30 minutes of trading. I highly recommend that you top up again for long-term investing. For long-term investing, my practice is that I only buy from 1:30 to 2:30 or maybe up until 3 o'clock. So 1:30 to 2:30. So that's what I personally practice when it comes to topping up on my long-term portfolio. Long-term. If we're talking about short-term, then I pay attention to the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. Okay? I just want to make that clear. Okay? Okay, now, my overall sentiment on FGEN, considering that it has a towering volume today, and obviously it's above its 10-day volume average, and it's also moving above the signal line. Not signal line, but the 10-day simple moving average, and MACD is still above the signal line. I love those two combinations of two indicators, so I remain bullish on FGEN. Okay, if you have a position on FGEN, is it okay to top up on your position on this particular stock? Well, let's take a look first at our reward to risk ratio. If we're going to treat 17.70 as our risk and 25.80 as our potential reward, by the looks of the position of this last candlestick, it seems to me that it's already, well, more or less it's at the median of these two price points. The average of these two price points, it's at the middle already. So, well, estimatedly, if I'm going to estimate this, it looks like that I have a 1:1 reward to risk ratio here. Okay, again, if we were going to treat 17.70 as our potential risk and 25.80 as our potential reward. So, but again, if you already have a position and on FGEN and you have a positive average cost or average price, then generally speaking, it's okay to top up on your investment on FGEN. Just monitor 21.8 to 22 pesos per share, just like what I mentioned a while back. If you don't have a position yet on FGEN, ask yourself, are you happy with the 1:1 reward to risk ratio? Because if you were to ask me, especially for a newbie trader or newbie investor, I would suggest that you find stocks with 3:1 reward to risk ratio, 3:1. Worst, you should have probably about 2:1 or maybe 1.6:1 or 1.7:1, but never at 1:1 reward to risk ratio. So there you go. So if you are planning to enter a new position on FGEN and you see yourself as a low risk trader or relatively newbie investor, I would suggest you wait for the price to retreat at least below near 20 pesos or below the 50-day simple moving average. You wait for that for the price to retrace or to to do a technical correction. Okay. Now, if you are a high risk trader and 1:1 reward to risk ratio is not so of a big deal for you, just do a test buy. See if 21.8 to 22 pesos will stand as a strong range of support tomorrow. If it does, maybe you did a good decision to test buy on FGEN. But if 21.80 to 22 pesos per share do not stand as a good intraday support, as an intraday support range, at least within the first 15 to 30 minutes, then I think there's a possibility then for the price to go below 21.5 or 21 pesos instead. Yeah, 21, below 21. So monitor that particular range and the influx of volumes, especially again within the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. So there you go for FGEN. So the next one is SEVN, SEVN. So let's take a look at the chart of SEVN. The immediate support for SEVN is at 114 pesos and 70 centavos. And the major resistance is at 150 pesos and 20 centavos. Right now, you can say that 133 is the acting immediate support of SEVN because it already pierced above that previous support. So that previous support, or that previous resistance rather, is now acting as the immediate support of SEVN. But as far as if we're going to talk about the major and not the immediate support, then I would say major support is at 114.70. Okay, so now today's ascent in price and breakout above 133 was supported by a towering volume. That's why I zoom it out, or I zoom it in, so you can see the distance above its 10-day volume average. You see this is histogram, this mountain-like ranges here. So this is the volume average, the 10-day volume average of SEVN. Well, obviously you can see here that it's not just, it's way above its 10-day volume average. So when the price comes with volume, there's a possibility for that ascent to be continued. Okay, we might see a continuation of this ascent tomorrow, but the operative word is might and not will. Okay, so again, watch out within the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading, because those who are into 7 just to make some quick money, they might translate this 138 to 145 or maybe 138 to 143 as a selling range. So be watchful of the uh, of volume within the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. If the price continues to go up side by side with volume, then that could be a sign that 7 traders are willing to buy up on this particular stock. However, if the price continues to go up, but volume does not catch up, it does not pick up, meaning to say it does not grow in congruence, in confluence and congruence with the price, then psychologically speaking, it seems to me then that 7 traders are still eavesdropping with each other, meaning to say they are waiting who among the trade participants are willing to buy up on this particular stock on a significant level. Okay, so remember that. Now, year to date, let's take a look at year to date. I would say that 7 is on let's see if this, okay, 7 is on a net foreign selling year to date, on a net foreign selling. Now, despite the prices ascent above 133 and above the 10-day simple moving average, we are yet to see MACD moving above the signal line. So if you're looking for a confirmed buy signal, there's no confirmed buy signal yet. How do we know if there's a confirmed buy signal? If MACD crosses above the signal line and the price is above, makes it above the 10-day simple moving average, then that's a confirmed buy signal. Okay, for the risk level, 7 still has a low risk level because of its historical volatility score of 36%. Now, the alignment of the moving averages is what we prefer. The green above the red and the red above the blue. So, to increase my bullish conviction for this particular stock, I would prefer to see the price moving above the 140 level, so that the price will continue to increase the gap or the distance above the 10-day simple moving average. That will give more room for the MACD line to cross above the signal line. Okay, now let's take a look at the volume review for 7. 7 got a volume weighted average price somewhere here at 134.65. I believe I have not mentioned this yet in one of the previous 3 previous daily top 5 gainers and top 5 losers analysis videos, but I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight this VWAP. Although you have been reading this one on my price volume distribution statistics, every time I post that those statistics together with the price volume distribution chart on in our private clients forum, I believe you have been reading this VWAP. It stands for the volume weighted average price. What's the relevance of VWAP? Why is it worthy to be mentioned in this video? There's a classical belief that mutual fund managers, they don't buy at the first price that they see on the ask spread. Instead, they buy at the VWAP, so that they will not shake the entire market depth, so that they will not affect the organic movement of prices as far as market depth is concerned. So they buy at the VWAP. Okay. Now, what does it mean for you as a trader or as an investor? Remember, in our investment guide for long-term investing, there are 5 columns there that I suggest you use as candidates for buying points. You have the top 5. Let's take a look at this. You have the top 5 prices with the biggest number of trades, top 5 prices with the biggest number of volume. There you go, VWAP. And then the top 10 players buying average, and then the top 10 players selling average. So this is the VWAP. Notice this one. Most often than not, VWAP is the most conservative price. What does it mean by conservative price? It's more or less it's the lowest price that when you compare it to the 5 different price points that appear under the top 5 prices trades and top 5 prices volume columns. Most often than not, or sometimes it's a 50-50 chances that the VWAP is the lowest price. Okay, or sometimes it's the price. It's the median. It's the median of the highest and the lowest price point that appears in any of these first 2 columns. So when you buy at the VWAP, mutual fund managers think, or they have made it a practice to buy at the VWAP, and classical belief still makes us believe that up to this day, mutual fund managers, institutional brokers, or investors, they buy at the VWAP so that they will not interrupt the organic movement of prices. Okay, so that's another, I would say, trivia or information that you have to know. Okay, in our investment guide, I also wrote an explanation what VWAP is. So you may want to revisit our quick start guide and press Control F, type in VWAP or volume weighted average price so you can read further. Now going back to volume review, 133 pesos per share got almost 39% of today's volume, while 135 pesos per share got 47% of today's volume. Take a look at this one. Not because a price point got one of the biggest, if not the biggest volume, it doesn't mean that it's worthy to put a pin or to monitor that price point. Why? Take a look at the number of trades next to 133. There's just one trade, meaning to say I don't need to double check. This already means that this is just a cross trade. So when it comes to volume analysis, I disregard cross trades, especially if they are this size. So instead of monitoring 133, I would suggest you monitor 135 to 138, this particular range, 135 all the way to 138. And there's a justification as well to that. This particular range, 135 to 138, got the biggest. Not only did it get the biggest volume, but also the highest number of trades. That's where the volume and the number of trades come together. They flock within that range. Okay. All right. Now for the total traded value, for the net foreign trade, I mean, net foreign trade is only at a super slim, okay, super thin net foreign trade worth 1.4 million pesos worth of net foreign buying. No, you can disregard that. It's not that sizable. Let's take a look at FGEN. FGEN, because a while back I wasn't able to mention the net foreign trade for FGEN. FGEN got 15 million worth of net foreign buying today. Okay, so still we're talking about 7. I just wanted to sneak in the net foreign trade value for FGEN. So moving back to 7, my overall sentiment for 7 remains neutral to bullish. I'm not completely bullish because MACD is still below the signal line. Okay, I'm neutral to bullish. If you already have a position in 7, especially if you entered at the position when it was still below 115 per share, and you would like to ask me what should you do now, you have 2 options. It's either you hold your position and sell when it hits 150.20, this resistance, or sell once your trailing stop loss has been hit. The other option that you have is you can top up on your position. Top up on your position. Now, if you don't have 7 yet, do I recommend that you enter a new position now or you wait some more? Well, my suggestion will I have 2 suggestions based on your risk level. If you have a low to moderate risk level, I would suggest you buy on the dips. Buy on the dips, meaning to say wait for some red candlesticks and see if there are chances of it bouncing away from the support line somewhere near 115 or somewhere near 124 or 120, 120 to 124. That's where the 50-day simple moving average is, 123. Okay. Now if you have a high to extremely high risk level, you can do a test buy. Monitor what price? 135 to 138. Again, if there's a strong if the volume is picking up together with the ascent of the price, then that could be a signal again that traders might want to really buy up on this particular stock and test if the resistance at 150 is really a strong resistance. So you can play on the momentum then. But if the price is going up but volume is not cooperating, meaning to say it's lagging behind, and you might want to reconsider reconsider your plan uh, to enter a new position on 7. So there you go. I've given you my overall sentiment and trade setup for 7. Now let's move on to ZIHU Holdings. Okay, let's take a look at the chart of ZIHU. I think I already covered ZIHU in one of the 3 previous videos. Let's double check on that. ZIHU, did I cover it? Oh yeah, I covered it last February 28, 2019. Back then it was the 5th top gainer according to total traded value, and today it's number 3 according to total traded value as well. So it continues its bullish ascent. And if I were bullish on ZIHU last February 28, I think I'm more bullish today, because the price, take a look at the volume last February 28. Last February 28, volume was below the 10-day volume average, but today it more than doubled the 10-day volume average. So today's volume is above the 10-day volume average, and the price is also above the 10-day simple moving average, and the green SMA is above the red one, and the red is above the blue one. Perfect alignment, if you would ask. Now major support sits at 0.31. Major support, I did not say immediate. So major support sits at 0.31, while the immediate resistance is at 0.47. 0.47. If just in case you're curious what's above 0.47, especially for the optimistic ones, I'm sure you would like to know. JC can show us what's the next historical resistance. If there's none, how about the psychological resistance above 0.47? Okay, hold your horse. Here it is. I'm showing it to you already. Okay, it's not yet plotted, so we have to modify the settings of Fibonacci and then click on reverse. Okay, and then let's see the 161.8% Fibonacci extension, which is positioned at 0.63. There goes the answer. 0.63. That's your psychological resistance after 0.47. Okay, so don't keep your hopes up, even though I've shown that to you. What I mean by that is you should also consider observing your trailing stop loss. Okay. As far as the foreign investors transactions are concerned, we can take a look at that at the volume review later on. But for MACD, it's now enjoyably moving above the signal line. So it looks like now that the perfect buy signal appears on our screen. The price moving above the 10-day simple moving average, and MACD is crossing above the signal line. For the risk level, ZIHU has a risk level that's extremely high. Why extremely high? Because it already has a historical volatility score of 134%. So it's all the more that newbie traders or newbie investors should be careful. It's all the more that you should be careful. Okay. careful with your decision, not because you saw 3 consecutive candlesticks, it doesn't mean it will be the exact same color for the remaining days of the year. Okay? Don't stick your eye to the upside potential. Tell yourself as well that there's a downside potential, not just the upward potential, upside potential. If there's an upside, there's a downside. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look at the volume review for Z. So in today's trading, 0.4 got 25% of today's volume, and I would suggest that you watch out for this particular range tomorrow, especially if you would like to trade on Z. Monitor 0.385 all the way to 0.415. This 0.38.5. Let me highlight that. This one. Okay. Let me highlight that. Monitor this range 0.385 all the way to 0.415. Okay. Monitor that range. Now for today's net foreign trade, Z got it's insignificant. 500 million pesos worth of net foreign buying. We can ignore that. Okay, my overall sentiment for Z remains bullish. If you already have a position, if Z has already been in your portfolio since last week, let's say, or since it was near, if not below 0.30, you can do two things. You can hold your position and sell when your trailing stop loss has been hit, or when whichever resistance is hit as well. You can do that. Now, you can also hold your position, or you can top up. Okay, if you can top up, if my bullish overall sentiment on Z matches with your overall sentiment as well, because there's a possibility that if I'm bullish, you are neutral to bullish or not so bullish. Why? Because we do have different investment horizon, risk tolerance. Okay. Now, if you don't have a position on Z yet, is it worthy to do a test buy on Z? Well, we cannot tell if it's worth it or not. We can only do a test buy 1 or 2 tranches, and then monitor the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. If the ascent in price comes with a significant volume, if it does, then give yourself a pat on the back, okay, for doing the right thing to do a test buy. However, if you did a test buy tomorrow, if you did the test buy but the price goes up without any significant volume, then it's all the more that you should be extra conscious. Not really so worry about that, but you have to be more conscious about that, because there's a possibility then that the price to retreat or to just move sideways all throughout the day. So observe the price and volume. Okay. By now, if you have been reading watching my videos or reading my articles, whether the free ones or the paid ones inside our private clients forum, you should have already familiarized yourself every time I say these two words: price, volume. You should have already distinguished by now. You should already have a clearer picture in mind every time I say price and volume. You should know the correlation between the two already by now. Okay, so that's it for Z. Let's move on to the next top gainer, and we have San Miguel Food and Beverage, FB. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart of FB. So FB's immediate support is at 98.6, resistance is at 104. If you watch the previous video, it was set at 103, so I adjusted it at 104. Okay. Take note that when it comes to plotting support and resistance levels, we're not after the precise point, as in precise all the way to the centavo level. That's not our goal. We just want to get the range. Okay, range. So another way of saying this is the support range is at the resistance range is near. We're not saying the support is at this peso level and centavo level. Okay, I just want to repeat that over and over again every now and then, because there are some new subscribers in here that are also newbie investors. Okay, so for those who have gotten tired of hearing that clarification from me, you can just ignore that part, and let's cut some slack for the newbie investors and newbie subscribers. Okay, okay, I know you understand that part. Now let's, I'm sure you would like to know, sir, what if the resistance at 104 pesos has been pierced or has been broken out? What's the next resistance after that? Okay, let's take a look at the historical, no, not historical, but psychological resistance. So after 104, it's 119. That I did not change. Okay, I think so. I think I did not change that psychological resistance. It's still pegged at 119 pesos a piece. Today's price, last Friday, the price went a little bit below the 10 SMA. Now it regained its throne above the 10 SMA. MACD is still enjoying its position above the signal line, and this particular stock, FB, has a moderate risk stock, has a moderate risk level, but as soon as its volatility score goes above 70%, then it will then have a high risk level. Right now it has a volatility score of 70%. One more percent and this stock will then have a high risk level. Now let's take a look at those price points that you need to monitor should you find this particular stock tradable by the next trading day. Okay, so here we go. 100 pesos per share got 38% of today's volume with 235 trades. On the other hand, 103 pesos got 27% of today's volume with 58 trades. So not so much trades, not as much trades as the one at 100 pesos. So between the two, I would say between 100 and 103, the former is more dominant or significant, more heavyweight than the latter. And I'm referring to 100 pesos, okay? Does it mean you should ignore 103? That's what I did not say that. I just said that in terms of significance or weight percentage, 100 pesos per share got the biggest volume today and the highest number of trades, way bigger than what 103 pesos got for today in terms of volume and number of trades. On the other hand, do not forget that FB closed today at 103 pesos and not at 100. What does this mean? What does this mean then? How can you use this information for tomorrow's trading, especially if you already have a position on FB? This is how I should do it if I have FB. First, before if I am planning to top up a position, my position in FB, assuming I have one, I'm not going to rush to buy at 103 pesos within the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. Why? Because I can sense. Let's not use the word sense because that's more like an instinct. We're not an we are not an instinct-based community here. Okay, so there's a possibility for this price to revisit 100 from 103 to 100 pesos tomorrow. It's a possibility, okay? It's a probability. So I'm not going to rush to buy at 103, 103.10, or maybe 103.20, not even 102.9. Why? Again and again, because there's a possibility for the price to retrace at 100. Is that possibility? Could that possibility become false tomorrow? Of course, it could be. Of course, it's possible for FB to start at 104 as well and not look back at 103. But as far as the historical data that we have is concerned, I am more inclined into being risk averse, meaning to say being extra careful with my decision to buy or to top up on FB. Okay, so there you go with my risk averse trade setup or action plan for FB. Now for the net foreign today, FB got 8 million pesos worth of net foreign buying. My overall sentiment for FB remains bullish. If you do have, I think I already gave you trade setup. If you have a position in FB, if you don't have a position in FB yet, I would suggest you reconsider your plan, because this particular stock is now nearing the historical resistance at 104. Okay, it's either you buy on the dips if you're a position trader, or if you are quite if you are a low to moderate risk trader, or for the experienced ones, you can buy on breakout, especially while the price is above the 10 SMA and MACD is above the signal line, regardless of the historical volatility score, which translates to the risk level of the stock. Okay, so there's a different plan for different types of traders, different plans for different folks. Did that rhyme? Quite. Okay, anyway, so there you go. Let's move on to the next stock. The last top 5 gainers in the top 5th gainer in the list is HLCM Cement. So let's take a look at HLCM. HLCM, and then volume review, and then now let's pull out the chart of HLCM. So HLCM closed today at 9.61 with an intraday high of 9.70 and 9.19 as its intraday low. The price managed to move or to regain its position above the 10-day simple moving average, and the not so good news here, and I'm still being conservative with my choice of word when I say that, is that MACD still it does not seem to have any plan of showing some signs of reversal, except for the fact that it seemed to have flattened today. It seemed to have flattened today, or maybe this is a sign of checking if 0.5, I'm referring to this line, if 0.5 is a rebounding area. So if it bends tomorrow from the southward going to the northward direction, maybe that's an indication that it's about to make an attempt to reverse its direction on its way to crossing above the signal line. Risk level wise, HLCM has a low risk level because of its volatility score of 31%. 2019 year to date, HLCM has a net foreign buying status. Now when it comes to today's volume, okay, it's above. Today's volume is above its 10-day volume average. If we continue to see daily volume bars moving above it's a 10-day volume average, then there's a high probability for the price to to move away from the support at 9.11 and move towards the resistance at 10.10. Okay, we prefer to see a bigger volume. It's always like that. When the price is going up, we want to see a significant support coming from the volume. Okay. Now for the volume review of HLCM, its VWAP is at 9.61. Take note, or we can say 9.62 to round it up. Take note that the HLCM closed today at 9.61 too. But let's find out which price point got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. 9.62 got 39.5% of today's volume with 79 trades. Meanwhile, 9.61 got 27% of today's volume with only 49 trades. If there's a particular range that I would suggest you monitor tomorrow, that would be 9.61 and 9.62. Yep, just those two. 9.61 and 9.62. Because that's where 60% of today's volume was spotted within that range. Again, 9.61 and 9.62. Today's net foreign is at 11.8 million. It's a net foreign selling, guys, not net foreign buying. Net foreign selling, okay? So again, 9.61 and 9.62. If you would like to play on HLCM tomorrow, my overall sentiment on HLCM is bullish. What made me say that? Because the ascent in price above the 10-day simple moving average came with a volume that's above its 10-day volume average. If we don't see volume above the 10-day simple moving average tomorrow, then I might change my overall sentiment from bullish to neutral to bearish. So it's all a game. It's all about the game with volume now. Okay. So right now I'm not completely bullish. I'm neutral to bullish. Okay. I'm neutral to bullish. A while back I said I'm bullish, but to be specific, I'm neutral to bullish. Why not completely bullish? Why don't I just remove the word neutral? Oh, because MACD is still moving below the 10-day, below the signal line. This one, blue line. MACD is still below the red line. Okay. All right. So if you don't have a position on HLCM, is it a good idea to play this stock tomorrow? If you're the kind of a trader who got the experience when it comes to trading the range, for example, this 9.11 to 10.10, then you can do so. You can do so, but for newbie traders, newbie short-term traders, I would suggest you wait for the price to retrace at least below 9.11. Now, for those who are curious, what's behind 10.10? This historical resistance. What's the psychological resistance after 10.10? Okay, give me a few seconds. I'll show you the answer. So it's 12.8. That's where the 161.8% Fibonacci extension is spotted. 12.8. Okay. If you have a position in HLCM and you manage to buy below 9.11, what should you do? You have two options. First option, hold your position. Second option, you top up. And then you sell when your trailing stop loss is hit, or once the price hits a particular resistance zones, let's say 10.10. Okay, so I already gave you my trade setup or action plan for those who don't have a position yet. Okay, so there you go for the top 5 gainers for March 4, 2019, Monday. Now let's move on to the top 5 losers, starting it off with SCC. Okay, so this is familiar to me because I think I covered this one in one of the previous videos. Oh yeah, I was right. I covered SCC last March 1, 2019. It was also spotted in the top 5 losers list. Now let's take a look at this at its daily chart. Okay, so as early as now, I can tell you that I have my overall sentiment is actually bearish, not even neutral to bearish, but completely bearish. And I said that also in my video last March 1. And that's the reason why I proactively plotted a psychological, is it psychological? I think so. That's why I proactively plotted a psychological support at 17.98 because I already had a sense based on data that the bearish price movement of SEC might continue, and it did. It has been actually. Okay. So today SEC closed at 20.35 with an intraday high of 21.65 and 20.25 as its intraday low. Today's volume is supporting the bearish price action of SEC. This is something that I would like to highlight for you. If you see a red candlestick, you should not pray for a volume that's above its 10-day volume average. You would want to see the exact opposite of that, especially if you have a position on that stock. Again, if it's a red candlestick, what you would want to see is a volume be below the 10-day volume average. Why would you want to see that? Because if the price is falling down and there's not so significant volume appearing on the chart. It means to say the majority of traders or investors of that stock have not seen a catalyst for them to be convinced that it's the right time to sell all the way. Meaning to say, it's as though they are saying, what are these guys doing? Why are they selling their positions? There are no domestic or international reasons to do panic selling right now. But that is if the price is below the 10-day volume average. But if it's a red candlestick and you see that the price is also above the 10-day volume average, meaning to say the traders or investors of that particular stock have seen something that that convinced them to join the selling. Okay. Today's MACD is also below the signal line, and the risk level of SCC is at, let's see, 41%. Okay, or 42%. It's still a low risk level. Okay. Now for today's volume, let's take a look at this one. Okay, it's 7 million net foreign selling. Now let's take a look at the volume review for this particular stock. So which one got the biggest volume? 21%. Okay, 22. 20.35 got 22% of today's volume, followed by almost 22% as well, 20.50. If there's a particular range that I would want you to monitor tomorrow, that would be 20.50 all the way to 20.30. Let's start at 20.35 all the way to 20.55. Okay, again, 20.35 to 20.55. Okay, 20.35 to 20.55. Okay, now let's now if the price goes below 20 let's see this one. If the price goes below 20, if the price goes up, is there a possibility for the price to go above 21? By the looks of what's happening right now, I don't see any big possibility for that, to see that happening. That's why I would want to disregard this 21 here, unless an intraday there's something that would happen tomorrow as trading happens that would reverse the bearish sentiment of the market. But 20.35 to 20.50, that's the price that you need to check tomorrow. I already said my overall sentiment on SEC. I'm completely bearish. If you have a position on SEC, again, I'm going to return the question: why do you still have SEC? It has been in a downtrend pattern since 2017. Why do you still have it? Okay. Now, if you don't have a position in SEC, then it's good. Wait and let it draw closer to 17.98 or 18 pesos per share. Okay. So that's my sentiment for SCC. Now let's go on to ATN again. I discussed ATN last March 1. Okay, now let's take a look at ATN. ATN is not open to foreign investors. ATN Class A is not meant for foreign investors. That's why we will see a dead histogram for the net foreign trade here. Now ATN closed at 1.47 with an intraday high of 1.57 and an intraday low of 1.46. Now let's take a look at this. Okay, for ATNB, resuming our conversation on ATN, well, not ATNB but ATN actually, Class A. VWAP is at 1.52, but let's take a look at the price points that got the biggest volume again. There are two ranges that I would like to highlight. The first one is 1.51 to 1.55, and the second one is 1.47 to 1.48. So those are the two ranges. Okay, now, what's my overall sentiment on ATN? I am bearish, not just neutral to bearish, but bearish. Why? Because this red candlestick, you heard me a while back when I was talking about the previous stock. When you see a red candlestick, and the price is above its 10-day volume average, meaning to say the traders or investors of that particular stock have seen something that makes them believe that it was really worth it to share that stock. So they participated in the selling, in the panic selling, or in the selling down the stock. Okay, so the support I'm looking at is actually at 1.36. Now, if the price goes below 1.42, if the price goes below 1, it's either it will bounce away from 1.42 or it will continue its downtrend all the way to testing 1.36. Okay, so 1.42 is now the fence that can prevent the price to go below 1 all the way to 1.36. But once it goes above the fence, it jumps above the fence at 1.42, then I think you may not be able to control it from retesting 1.36, the support line. Resistance is at, let's take a look at this. Resistance is at 1.56, this one. Okay, 1.56. So there you go for my overall sentiment for Etienne. If you have Etienne, take note that this particular range, 1.36 to 1.56, has been the range that Etienne has been playing since November 2018. So there's a chance for Etienne to just keep on playing at this range until the volume until we see some regularity on the daily volume, because even the daily volume is erratic. See this? Okay. Now, if you don't have a position on Etienne yet, well, let it do its thing by waiting at the dips. Buy at the dips, or not even buy at the dips, because I think not because the price hits a dip or the previous support, it's not an automatic buy. You have to check first. Okay, once the price hits a support level, it's not yet the signal to buy. Actually, that's the time that you need to check if there's a buy signal once the price hits a support level. Okay, because if you don't look for confirmed buy signals when the price hits a support level, and you heard it up by entering a position or buying some more or entering a new position in that stock, and then the price continues to go down, okay, that's what you don't want to happen. That's what you don't want to experience. So you got to check for confirmed buy signals every time the price hits a support level. Okay, so there you go. If you don't have a position yet, like what I've mentioned, recheck if there are some buy signals when the price hits 1.42. If it goes down below 1.42 and reaches 1.36, recheck if there are some buy signals by then. Okay, so that's it for Etienne. Let's move on now to Surpass. I covered this particular stock. I also talked about this particular stock in my previous videos. Let's take a look at the list. Did I talk about X? Oh yeah, I did. That's February 28th. It was in the top 5 gainers list back then. Now it's in the top 5 losers list. So let's take a look at X. So X now has a okay. So seeing X now, I think, yeah, I discussed this last February 28th. Now let's take a look at the chart. So X closed today at 1.47 with an intraday high of 1.57 and an intraday low of 1.46. It almost closed at its intraday low level. Take note that today's bearish price action came with a bearish volume as well. This is not the combination that you would want to see if you are hoping for the price to immediately go back up. Okay, so the price is still above the 10-day simple moving average, but the red line, which is the 50-day SMA, is also above the 10 SMA, and that's not the alignment that we want to see too. Okay, so the immediate support that I'm seeing is at 1.36, while the immediate resistance is at 1.56. This is for, actually this is not yet X. Hold on. Sorry about that. I just noticed that there was X on top, but the description of the company's name is not Surpass. Okay, moving forward. So X closed today at 1.35 with an intraday high of 1.41 and an intraday low of 1.31. I think it closed at its median or at the average of the intraday high and low. The blue line, the blue moving average, simple moving average is above the 50-day simple moving average and the 10-day simple moving average. This is not actually the alignment that we want to see if we are to trade a particular stock. Okay, but this is one of the stocks that I would want to add in my watch list. Why? Because the deeper it gets, the more I would want to watch or monitor that stock on a daily basis, because as soon as traders think that the price is too dirt cheap to ignore, I'm sure it will reverse its position. It will reverse the sentiment or the movement of that particular stock. Which particular volume or price get the biggest volume? I'm looking at 130, 132. Watch out for this particular range. As far as X is concerned, that is if you would like to trade. Okay, if you would like to trade the name. And if I say trade the name, it's either you buy or sell, whichever mode you are in. Whether you're in a buying mode or selling mode, this is the range that you would want to monitor. I would recommend that you monitor tomorrow, especially in the first 15 to 30 minutes of trading. 132 to 1.35. Why? Because that's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. Okay. Today's net foreign trade amounts to 8 million net foreign selling. So my overall sentiment on Surpass is bearish. Okay, bearish. Is there a possibility, based on how this chart looks like, is there a possibility for the price to bounce away from 1.34 or 1.31 or 1.30? There is, if and only if it will respect the support 1.30. But if the price touches 1.30 and the volume for that particular day is still above the 10-day volume average, then there's a higher probability for the price to continue its downward movement than to bounce away from 1.30. Okay. By the way, Surpass already has a moderate risk level because of its 68% volatility score. Okay. If you don't have a position on X yet, wait for the price to inch closer to 1.30. If it inches closer to 1.30 with tall volumes, and how tall is tall? If it's above the 10-day volume average, might as well wait until wait near 1.05 when that happens. Okay. But if you see that as it draws closer to 1.30, the volume starts to dissipate. It could be a sign that traders think that it's about time to catch the falling knife, so to speak, at 1.30. Okay. Again, be mindful of that range that I mentioned, 1.32 to 1.35. Now let's take a look at the next top loser. We have MRC. So let's take a look at the chart of MRC. MRC closed today at 0.405 with an intraday high of 0.42, 0.42 and an intraday low of 0.4. Volume is also above its 10-day volume average. So as early as now, I would say that I'm already completely bearish on MRC because of its because of this combination. What combination? Red candlestick, volumes above the 10-day volume average. That makes me all the more bearish on the stock. Besides that, or in addition to that, The MACD line is in a bearish divergence, meaning to say it's moving away further below the signal line. While it's take a look at this. MRC has a low risk level. This is another example of my advice wherein I said that not because a stock has a low risk level, it doesn't mean you should already have that stock. Not all stocks with a low risk level are worthy to have in your portfolio. And this is one example. Okay. Um, the alignment of the moving averages is also completely bearish. Now, 0.405 got 45% of today's volume, and if there's a range that you need to watch, out for tomorrow, that would be 0.4 all the way to 0.41. That's the range that got the biggest volume and the highest number of trades. VWAP is at 0.4. Okay, so I'm completely bearish. If you don't have MRC yet, good. Wait for it to inch closer to the to see what happens below 0.4. If the volume continues to register above the 10-day volume average, wait for the stock to draw closer to 0.35 all the way to 0.30. If you still have MRC, and assuming that you have had MRC above 0.4, respect your trailing stop loss. Okay, respect your trailing stop loss. Now let's move on to the last one. We have CLC. Okay, so CLC closed today at 5.82, and by the way, it already break down below its support at 6.18. Let's double check if I already discussed CLC in one of my previous videos. I think I have not. CLC. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about CLC yet. Okay, so this is since February 28 or since February 27. Okay, the day I started consistently producing daily videos like this. Okay, going back, CLC, its previous support was at 6.80 and it now stands at its immediate resistance. So the new support is now positioned at 4.60. I would like to highlight that the alignment of the moving averages are supporting my completely bearish stance on this particular stock. Why? Because the blue is above the red and the red is above the green. We want to see the exact opposite. Okay, if we want to trade the name. Okay, so now today's volume is also above its 10-day volume average. So I think the downtrend will continue from here unless a strong catalyst or a strong disclosure, a positive disclosure or a positive news, political news will sprout as trading happens tomorrow or within the week. But until then, I think the price will continue to move downwards. In addition to that, MACD does not show any sign of any bullish divergence with the signal lines. It still moves in a bearish confluence, bearish direction together with the signal line. Okay, it's not even worthy to mention the risk level of this particular stock because it really looks bad. It really looks bad to me. Now let's take a look at the volume review for Chelsea. By the way, the VWAP of Chelsea is at 5.9 and it closed at 5.82. A while back, I think I mentioned to you that mutual fund managers buy at the VWAP. But knowing that the price closed at 5.82 and VWAP is at 5.90, there's no way that you should translate that as a signal for you to buy higher. No way. Okay? So sometimes we have to take these quote unquote classical beliefs with common sense. Most often, okay? It works. Now, the price that got the biggest volume was 5.82, getting around 19% of today's volume with 92 trades. followed by, it's actually pretty scattered here, pretty scattered, 18.86, followed by 6.0. It's quite far from 5.82. 6.0 got 11% of today's volume, but only with 48 trades. Okay, so knowing that the price closed at 5.82, I would say instead of monitoring 5.9 to 6.0, I would say you monitor 5.82 and below. Since the price that got the biggest number of trades and the biggest volume is super close to the intraday low. So my bias is on the side of toward on the bearish side towards the intraday low. Okay, monitor the price at 5.82 and below. Okay, so my overall sentiment is completely bearish. If you don't have a position on CLC yet, that's good. Wait for the price to inch closer some more to 4.60. If you have a position on CLC, assuming that, let's say your average price is above 6.18, just it's either you go out as early as now, you preempt your trailing stop loss, or you just wait for your trailing stop loss to be hit. But if you do have a CLC right now and your average price is above 6.18, I would say don't wait for your trailing stop loss to be hit. Trim your losses already. Trim your losses already. So did I cover everything for the, yep, I already talked about the top 5 losers. So there you go for the top 5 gainers and the top 5 losers for today. Let's just have a recap. For the top 5 losers, I talked about my analysis, overall sentiment, trade setup, which encompasses my recommendation for those who either have a position on the stock or not, and for those who are still in the planning period on whether they should play the stock or not. So I discussed for the top 5 gainers, FGEN Corporation, Philippine 7, Zeus Holdings, San Miguel Food and Beverage, and HLCM. And then for the top 5 losers, I also talked about Semirarap, Mining and Power Corporation, Etienne Holdings Class A, Surpass, MRC Allied Incorporated, and finally, Chalzea Logistics Holdings. So there you go. This video will be uploaded on our short-term trading tab in an hour or two from now. If you do have questions, feel free to post them inside our private clients forum. Again, my name is JC De Guzman, and this is your daily stock analysis for the top 5 gainers and top 5 losers. Thank you and have a good day.